Welcome to the Pacific Championship Series Week 3, Day number 3. I'm going to be your host and play-by-play, Clement, and with me is the ever-so-brilliant Nightstar. We have a rare sunny day in Taipei and some hot games coming your way. With us along the journey has been our sponsors, CTBC Bank and Caliber, and of course, a big thanks to our organizers from Riot Games, Carico Live, and Garena as well. So, we are on the last day of round robin. You have to tell me, have things panned out the way you envisioned from the start, Nightstar?
Well, unfortunately, we haven't been able to see PSG this week, so the finalized top half of the standings will have to wait until next week. But when it comes down to the rest of the league, I would say it's been generally very surprising how Beyond Gaming have done in this first round robin with how they've placed and how it feels like it's been very uninspirational with how they attack the map and perhaps needing a little bit more development on that side.
Okay, I have to admit, I kind of hold the same opinions, not really that hyped about Beyond Gaming, but you have to be hyped about the trifecta of J teams dominating the league, right? I think that's kind of the biggest surprise, as we are going to be taking a look at yesterday's standings. We had some great performances, some breakouts yesterday, especially from Kurt and also from 665 coming in from MetaFalcon team.
Yeah, I think the one big surprise was that last result with Frank Esports taking the win over MetaFalcon team. Very surprising how dominant that game looked. But it also helps when you pretty much get the tier list of drafts where you get the Zeri, you get the Gwen, you get the Viego. So very happy to see that Frank Esports were at the very least able to execute around those very strong picks.
I think MFT have learned their lesson. They should not be letting Zeri go through the draft anymore. They are the team that is most prone to doing that. I don't know why, but yeah, it hasn't been a winning strategy. I definitely feel like we could put it that way.
Absolutely. Zeri is just, you just can't give her up. And we've seen time after time, MetaFalcon team, they're trying some of these strategies to really hamper it, but so far the execution hasn't been there. As we get to see the team standings, I mean, nothing too surprising. Unfortunately, again, PSG Talon won't be able to take on the likes of all three J teams this week. So we'll have to wait and see for next week to see if they can surpass the J teams.
We do see this teams kind of settling into their own tiers. If you look at the top 6 teams, they're all on win streaks, and the bottom 4 teams are all on lose streaks. I want you to make a bold prediction here, but do you kind of think that this is what we're going to see for the rest of the split, where there is kind of that split between top 6 and maybe bottom 4?
I mean, I feel like it's going to be a lot more about the top 5 and the bottom 5, which has almost sort of been the case classically with the LMS PCS region, where it's very top-heavy focus, and you can also see it reflected in the records with Frank Esports. Even though they're in the 6th slot with a 1-game win streak, they are also at a negative win rate.
And moving on to today's matches, we're going to kick off with MFT versus J-Team, and following off with kind of the battle between the bottom half of the bracket, with Frank Esports going up against 7-9, Impunity going up against Hurricane Gaming. You have to tell me right off the bat, which is the game that you are most excited about?
I think the most tantalizing one potentially is the second game, but the most entertaining one will certainly be that last game, Impunity versus Hurricane Gaming. Both of these teams really trying to find a way to pick themselves up, and any Hurricane Gaming at the gaming game at the very least will be entertaining to watch.
Those games are fast, they're bloody, and I'm always looking forward towards ICU's emotions after the game. He seems like he's caught in purgatory. But we're going to be moving on to our first matchup of the day. MetaFalcon team coming off of a 1-1 day. They're going to be running Epoch today in the support position. Taco 665 as your jungler, Wen in the mid lane, and Whale as the AD carry. The biggest surprise for me is that this team is finally going back to a standard sort of damage distribution. 665 no longer leads the team in terms of damage, which I think is a relief.
Yeah, I think, being able to bring out their trademark composition is it's really cool, but at the same time you have to be able to adapt to a certain point, as we do get to see TAIPEI J team, and this is certainly going to be a fun time when it comes to highlighting that jungle matchup, right? We talk about 665 being one of the big carries, and of course for J team, Kongra was the highlight signing coming in from the offseason. Yes, Uniboy was also a bit of a splash name, but really it was the focus on Kongra really bringing in a lot of playmaking for the squad.
And I feel like both of these junglers do have that sort of carry streak in them. We see Diana and Viego be kind of the go-tos for both of these guys, so it's definitely going to be very interesting on like these two junglers clashing up together. Do you think that's a correct characterization of their styles? Like maybe both of them are trying to go for a little bit more of a hard carry pants?
I think Kongra strayed a little bit away from it early on in the split, but absolutely, I think both of these junglers should be put in a position where they feel like they can control or determine the game, whether it's in a hard ganking situation like a Lee Sin where you can do damage early game, or that big scaling carry like a Gwen, or for Kongra, especially that Diana pick.
Oh, and now we're going to get a look at the stats to back this one up. Kongra doing a little bit better in the KTA department, but I think the really cool thing to kind of watch is that first blood priority, first blood participation, excuse me, as we do have 665 kicking things off just a little bit more for his own team on the Lee Sin and the Volibear.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense with how 665 have taken slightly more early game focus junglers, especially that Volibear looking to try and make dives happen. And although the last time we did see it was of course against Frank Esports, and it didn't really pay off a whole lot, so we'll see if he decides to fall back onto that pick, as MFT, they're going to be the ones to go ahead, ban away the Zeri pick. So this is very concerning for me, because if you're banning it away on blue side, it means that Whale just doesn't know how to play his champion.
Yeah, that definitely seems a bit concerning. Whale has played Tristana, Ziggs, and Kaisa, and Varus, and so far he's only gotten one win on those 4 champions. He does play a bit outside the meta, as we're going to roll through the other of the bans here. Galio, a bit of a Wen pick, and MFT continuing on to ban that Viego, so I guess it's no carry junglers for either.
Yeah, J-Team banning away the Diana is very interesting. Of course, 665 being that power jungler himself, wouldn't be surprised if he went on and just carried an entire game with that pick as well. And the biggest thing for me on MFT's ban list is the fact that they go ahead, ban away the Syndra. They do leave the Zoe left available. Yes, Zoe might be a little bit more playable, at least through the lane phase, but it does mean Uniboy, I would expect, would go ahead, take a comfort champion for himself in this first phase. But with all these bans coming out, they've actually left the Gwen through from the side of MFT, and they've prioritized the Hecarim instead.
Yeah, very interesting about that. We have seen Hecarim sort of rise in priority, but it's not exactly a carry jungler pick that you would imagine. Turbo Chem Tank still seems to be the mainstay. J-Team just kind of rolling through their usual suspects. Lil V has played 5 games of Jinx right now. They're hovering the champion. There goes the lock-in. So I think J-Team is just kind of coming ahead even on the red side. And a fun fact to mention that both of these teams so far have only won on the blue side. So someone's going to break the trend today.
Yeah, J-Team get pretty much everything they want in those first 2 picks. For the side of MFT, I feel like you're essentially just kind of expecting the Aphelios support duo to come out. The support this time around will be Nautilus. Of course, PCS love their Nautilus almost to a fault here. However, at the same time, you could go ahead, lock in something like a Rise for Wen if you want that. Again, really push forward and run people down kind of playstyle, but instead they're going to go ahead, lock in the Akali. So I fully expect this to go into the hands of Taco. as he has pulled it out before. I believe it was the first game of the split, and he really popped off with it. Hasn't seen a whole lot of action on it since, but on the flip side, J-Team looks like they want to go ahead lock in the support for themselves. So in the second phase, I fully expect MFT to just go ahead, target away the Zoe for sure, and maybe even add another mid lane pick to remove out of Uniboy's pool.
We're getting a Kaisa ban here from J-Team. This is pretty much the only ban you're going to see against Will. Not the only ban. It's only going to get banned against Will because he's pretty much the only one playing it at this point. We'll see if MFT follow up with that Zoe ban. Do want to mention, so far the Syndra has been going infinite for Uniboy. 0 deaths, infinite KDA. So those are the kind of two champions everyone expects to be banned against Uniboy. We'll see if they follow through. Instead, they are going to go for a Renekton ban, a very common ban still in the PCS, but one that hasn't been showing that much success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Renekton ban's a little bit interesting, but at the same time, if J-Team go ahead, lock in the Renekton at R4, it still leaves a lot of open-endedness to the draft, right? Because you have the Gwen who can flex into multiple roles, and then you would have the Renekton. So I think it's MFT really wanting some clarity from J-Team when they go ahead, lock in this R4 pick. And on the flip side, J-Team, they take away the Samira as well. So really, the Kaisa Samira are two champions that excel in diving with the team here. So it makes some sense as to why they want to remove those champions, but at the same time, it still leaves up the Aphelios, which for sure, like MFT are going to be comfortable locking it.
Is Wales' most played champion. He does play a lot of wonky stuff, but Aphelios is still kind of a go-to. Do expect to see that one being picked up. What do you see out of Wen, though? I think Wen has had a very interesting champion pool as well. Doesn't really play most of the standard mages.
Yeah, I would have to say if you're looking for something that is mage-like, it has to just be the Rise here. It works fine in this spot because if you are going tank Rise, at the very least, you do have the Akali to follow up with it. But they go ahead, lock in the Jhin first, and buy themselves a little more time to figure out what they really want to go with on this last pick. So Jhin, Nautilus, a lot of utility. It means that 665 is pretty much exclusively playing towards top side. Maybe he throws in a bot lane gank early. Okay, so it's going to be a Tryndamere, which means Wen's actually either going to get the Akali, a mechanically demanding champion, or he's going to get the Tryndamere, which isn't something we see a ton of in the mid lane from PCS especially, but certainly less mechanically demanding. It really just calls upon you to time your ultimate properly.
Yeah, I love the Tryndamere. So far, it's been going mainly to DCG, just playing it in that Smite Bard setup, but Tryndamere has been very powerful even when in the mid lane. Could be going into top lane as well. That's definitely, we have seen a lot of that too. So we're gonna have to tick down to 20 seconds. That's when the lock-in is in the PCS. But so far, it does look like Taco may be taking this trend top. What do you think about the two solo lanes?
It's certainly an interesting matchup here because we get Wen on a more mechanically demanding champion. So that will be interesting to keep track of, especially when Uniboy is on a champion like Orianna, which is naturally very safe in lane, can just harass as well. It, of course, is going to be a pick that does well into the MFT composition, right? Low range, a lot of dive, and you can zone people off very well with these classic mages for the most part. And then over in the top side, like if Taco does hold the Ignite teleport, this is a very different setup than what we usually see out of Tryndamere's in that top lane. You want the Ghost Flash for the most part because it allows you to once you hit level 6, dog down anyone you meet in that 1v1 and really slam them into the ground. And this Ignite teleport is a lot more for the lane phase where you want to be able to trade if Gwen does take a pre-6 trade and tries to all in you.
So with this Ignite top lane, do you think maybe MFT is gonna switch up their style? Because like I don't think Tryndamere is supposed to group in this sort of a setup. Are they just gonna go all the way 1-3-1, or do you still expect them to kind of play their usual style of just running at you with the full team?
I think we first need to see the summoners truly to clarify. Okay, so
Oh,
he
okay, they
does go
swapped.
ahead swap over. It's a much better setup. If he actually stuck with the Ignite TP, would have brought out some questions. But Driver is going to be the one running with the Ghost Ignite here. So of course, you when you do go up against the uh, Tryndamere in that top side or even in that mid lane, you want to take double combat summoners to be able to match. And most importantly, you want that Ghost in the event that, well, Tryndamere will end up popping Ghost on you. So you want that extra move speed to space against him. But with this setup, MFT have a lot of agency when it comes to fights, right? Because you have double Ghost, and if you're able to burn flashes on the flip side, you can always take a fight with Ghost up again before they have Flash.
Yeah, so we see the setup from MFT coming up here. The triple dive, like you mentioned, kind of the bread and butter from MFT. On the flip side, J-Team does seem to be playing more of a usual defensive hyper carry style. That's the J-Team we know of old, and no surprises from Uniboy or Kongria this time around. We're going to have a opposite-sided start from the junglers, Kongria going towards the bot side, and Hecarim going towards the top side. Do wonder what you think about this top lane matchup, because I think that Ignite is pretty interesting on this Gwen here.
Yeah, Gwen, we've seen as the answer to Tryndamere in a lot of cases, and it does do well in the lane phase, but of course the issue is if you aren't able to capitalize and get a kill early on, the Tryndamere will naturally just really skyrocket past you very quickly, and it just comes down to a bit of a difference when it comes to your teamfight approach. It's about, well, which one of these champions is going to be able to assassinate the backline faster. And in this case for MFT, they don't have a whole lot of backline to really speak of. So yes, Gwen should be able to kill the Jhin 10 times out of 10. However, you're not wiping out double carries in the backline. Whereas on the flip side, MFT, they should be able to decimate this backline if they are able to get onto them.
I definitely feel like this is just an ultimate Jhin. Like, he's supposed to pop up from afar, slow people, and that's about it. He's not even supposed to be coming into contact with Driver at any point in these team fights. We do have a little bit of a scuffle here as Kongria, he already saw 665, does have the vision there, and is going to do a little bit of an invade. 665 does not spot this, so leaving a little bit of opening for the bottom side for some plays to happen. Meantime, Wen is going to be starting with the triple Juju beads. This is a build that perhaps is seeing its last glory days, but we have to enjoy it while it lasts.
Yeah, this is of course 12-3, which means that the Rejuve beads have not been nerfed. That's why you do see that pickup coming in for Wen. It means that, well, it should be really, really nice lane phase for him. Uniboy is not going to have enough damage to really harass him.
Not a lot of damage. I expected Lil V to actually go in a little bit harder on that one, but doesn't happen as Hecarim is around the corner here. And, like you were mentioning, just kind of feels like a laning kind of setup for for MFT on a lot of parts.
Yeah. And it makes sense why J-Team don't fully commit to that trade, knowing that their jungler is over on top side. But this could be a follow-up pick.
As we have the hook landing, flash in from Epoch, Enzo flashes in return. Extra summoner burned here as the exhaust does go down as well. But it will be a small win here from MFT, just controlling the bottom lane from J-Team. Also want to mention that J-Team do get the most of their damage still coming from Lil V, sitting at 28% damage share.
Yeah, Lil V has really stepped up to take the carry mantle for the side of J-Team, especially since Uniboy hasn't really performed that well in this first half of the round robin. Kongria has had his moments, of course, especially when he gets his big hard carry champions, but we have seen a couple of times where he hasn't been able to pull that big damage load. So Lil V has naturally had to really compensate for the lack of damage coming in from both the mid and jungle roles.
Yeah, I feel like J-Team this season definitely has a much different setup from what they had in the previous splits, because they do have more of an early game focused jungler and mid laner. We talked about this in the pause, where basically J-Team Uniboy is such a different person when he gets the Zoe, when he gets the Syndra, compared to basically anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, for the side of J-Team, they're attempting to make a gank happen here, but it does get spotted out by the ward. And I mean, Whale, he understands how to really play a lot of these lanes because of the fact he knows he's not getting a whole lot of jungle attention in probably 90% of their games, because a 665 is looking to really snowball around himself, and whichever lane gives them the best opportunity to get those kills, that's usually where he's attacking, or he's looking to really attack this top lane for the Tryndamere. As a result, you know, you have bot lane priority, and you're just going to go ahead, turn towards this dragon, start stacking those dragons to perhaps force, of course, that third dragon fight, especially if you're able to secure that next one.
So far, J-Team already up to about a 600 gold lead just from the laning phase itself. And it looks like it's going to continue for quite a while. When do you think MFT is going to start trading blows here, as they're completely on the backside? 665 gets caught in the jungle. I don't think that's trading blows. I think that's falling deeper into the pit.
A kind donation coming out from 665 there. Not exactly the opening you'd like to see if you're an MFT fan, but for the side of J-Team, it's a welcomed charity. You'll take anything to try and speed up the scaling for this game, because of the fact, again, you do have a bit of an outscaling with the Orianna Jinx. So we will see the replay. Not sure how much of a replay this really is. It's just both solo laners coming in, and conveniently they have the pinch, and Kongya is just like, oh, thanks.
I do want to mention that seemed like it was blind from J-Team, so perfect map awareness. Kongya just took the Drake on the bottom side. They know that Hecarim is likely in their Krugs, so they do this perfect, pixel-perfect pincer right into the jungle and get 665 down. We do have MFT moving towards the Herald. This is a priority Herald, or I would like to call this kind of a compensation Herald, where the enemy team just found a win, and you're trying to sneak one away in the meantime. Doesn't look like they're going to get much contest here, as they do have double pink boards down. Very good vision control. And yes, it does look like J-Team is just going to hand this one over.
Yeah, they're really just there to play a lot faster than the side of J-Team. J-Team on a bit of a reset timer, so they go ahead, find themselves at that Herald faster. And I would say that you would very much welcome that dragon for Herald exchange in this time, especially with the composition MFT do have. Of course, it's about snowballing, getting that dive faster, online faster than J-Team, and getting Herald is certainly one way to do so. So the big thing now is to really keep track of this top lane, because now that Tryndamere has hit level 6, that's where the matchup does start shifting over to the side of the Tryndamere, being able to take these duels against the Gwen. Although Gwen does have the lethal tempo, so slightly better just straight up dueling potential, but not going to have that extra damage and build or healing coming in for these team fights.
Yeah, I feel like a little bit of a mess up from Uniboy. Didn't get his damage calculations quite down, but so far Driver has just been dominating in this lane. We'll see if Taco, with his utter disrespect for Hollowed Mist, can find a trade here. Poultry Shout down. Isn't going to really chase much up onto it. I do want to mention the strategic goals for both sides in this mid game, because as you can see on the map, J Team has got that bottom side completely covered. They've made two incursions for a 4-man dive, and that bottom lane tower has already had a plate taken off of it. Who do you think is going to strike first? Is it just going to be a trade? As we do have 665 going into the tower. Uniboy getting a lot of damage off. Might just be a kill here, and that's a solo! Oh, that's a pony that lost its way.
Yeah, so back-to-back charity donations, you know? Hard to explain that one, but now we're gonna see a collapse onto mid lane, and they do have the
onto
inside
little
track.
V. They throw everything on him, but Enzo is right around there, or just cancels out the ultimate. Enzo doesn't even need to flash for that one. Uniboy another kill in the mid lane. Meanwhile, top lane, Driver has his eyes on Taco. He should be fine though. As you mentioned, does still have the ult, but it just seems like laning phase is starting to implode for MFT.
Yeah, I mean, that mid lane really just kind of falls apart here for the side of MFT because of the kind donations coming in from 665 over to that lane. Uniboy now very much accelerated. 3 kills to his name, has the Ludens, has of course the Sork shoes, and on the flip side, when like he was already struggling, and after the consequential 2 deaths, this lane is really hard to play. We're going to see the replay here, and it really just comes down to when he wants to be able to get this entire wave, because it is pretty fat, but as a result he walks up too far. Konya just goes, we can just go ahead and kill him, and
doesn't even need the flash, to be honest, from Konya. Still gets it from some extra style points, and that was pretty insane because Konya killed him without shockwave from 60% HP. That's gotta be really painful for MFT. Do you still see a chance for them coming back in this laning phase, or it's just like, well, we gotta wait for late game, boys?
Yeah, this is definitely a very rough spot because now you're starting to bleed out when it comes to turret plates. You can't even walk up to this tower because, again, there's a large stat differential with Sork, Shoes, Ludens already completed on this Orianna. Usually you don't think about those Orianna shockwaves hitting too hard, but that's usually because the Orianna is kind of sitting on even pace. But when she's so far accelerated, the resistances don't come in fast enough, so you're going to be able to blast these champions very early on.
It does seem like 665 actually accidentally dropped the Herald here. I really doubt that was
could be timing
intentional. That's also possible. 665 doesn't get anything for that Herald drop, and they just have to back off.
It's just been a myriad of mistakes coming in for 665 just individually, right? It does look like
Konya finds 665. Nothing gonna happen out of that, but we do have a bot lane that's pretty much exposed at this point. I think it's just a question of how much J-Team can take away at this point.
And this comes down to a lot of the stuff that they set up for before, right? They had a lot of control when it comes to vision down in that bot side, that now they can just repeatedly invade, get those red buffs, and now they're going to also get an Akali.
Wen does have to burn both procs of his ultimate, but does get out in the end. However, that means mid lane is wide open. We see question mark things from J-Team. Is this for real? Do we get this for free? Is this for me? It's basically the meme of the gray cat looking down on the dinner table and just scrapping away whatever he can get. Very fed Uniboy at this point. 400 gold bounty on himself.
Yeah, and I mean, Wen did burn his teleport to get back into the lane, but at 14 minutes, you've already claimed really all the plates you could ever ask for the side of J-Team, and they will be able to get first brick here for Lil V. He should be able to get that solo. Okay, does get split with the Tom Kench, which doesn't feel as good, but you're still very happy with that trade, being able to get that gold, very large gold infusion for your AD carry, and you're really just set up perfectly for this mid game. Not a whole lot needs to be done because Taco still not quite strong enough to be able to just dive into the backline and assassinate both of these targets. He really needs a lot more help, and if you look at 665's build path here at the moment, he just doesn't have a whole lot of tools to kill this backline.
It does feel like Uniboy alone could probably get the kills as they get a perfect insect onto Epoch. 3-man ult's not going to save him. Whale trying to get a little bit of damage in. Red buff onto 665, and Kongra just pops the the crying emotes, probably for his enemies, and they move on towards the Herald as free as you like.
Yeah, 665 does get the blue buff, but that's really all they're able to get out of it. They're going to lose this Rift Herald, and now it's going to be getting excited. They might be able to find a kill on Whale.
That landed. Zap from Whale does go down. He is able to sidestep with the Gale Force, but not the Shockwave. Uniboy finds another kill. Now 4-0 and 0. Can 665 find a tick onto him? Not going to happen. Uniboy walks back with a ton of shields on him, and this game is just wide open at this point. When trying to scrap for some CS, Taco can't even walk into his own lane. Oh boy, MFT just welcome to the PCS.
Yeah, Konger is going to be able to might away, of course, that Gromp as well. So not even the scraps given over to Taco here. And I mean, once again, these are a lot of this is just consequences from the early 2 deaths given from 665 over to Uniboy. As a result, he's just so far accelerated. He finds that 2-man Shockwave right in that mid lane, and like normally you'd probably lack another 150 damage and you'd be able to survive by using your summoners, but with how far ahead Uniboy is, it just blasts him to high heaven. Now he gets even more gold. Now he has a large rod. Now he's going to be very, very close to that Shadow Flame, and once he has that for this next he's not going to have it for the next dragon fight, but he already has so much damage. It's perfectly set up to make for a very easy dragon take for the side of J-Team.
Early Shadow Flames are just so utterly ridiculous. You get extra magic pen based on the enemy HP, and it's usually pretty low to start off here, so I expect some pretty cool Uniboy one-shots coming up. That's definitely on the docket. Meanwhile, for Whale, that was definitely a solo queue moment. The first time you see the enemy mid laner and you realize, oh, he's been pretty fed this game.
Yeah. The first time you see the enemy team and he just uses his spells and you're instantly just deleted, you just say, man, this is the life of a AD carry.
Yeah, Kongra is able to steal away the majority of those Krogs, and Uniboy goes up to 6-0-0. Kongra is still with the just using his flash afterwards, and Taco now coming in to hopefully pick something off. Went into the backline, exhaust goes down, but Kongra is still alive. Finally, he does die, but a lot expended just for that kill. Epoch is overextended, and Wen is left in that Shroud Donut. Is going to go into the center and hand over the 7th kill to Uniboy. Uniboy has been proven to be a lot better than just on 2 kills.
Yeah, given the power to carry on this Orianna and given the extra resources early on, he has indeed given full return value towards that investment. Now has that Shadow Flame completed, has the stopwatch as well, so as try as you might with this dive coming in for the side of MFT, it's not going to work, at least for this next fight. So hopefully they are at the very least able to force that stopwatch out in the next fight, but the fact of the matter is this game feels very, very long gone.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. It seems done and dusted. We were talking about the win conditions where it was a dive comp from MFT. Well, guess what? The Uniboy can kind of one-shot people at this point, so the dive doesn't really work. We're getting some good shots of these mechanics here, as smooth as butter from Kongra.
And it's really just a lot of these, not even micro mistakes coming from 665. It's just where he's deciding to path on the map has just not been optimal, and he keeps on just conceding just free sacks of gold. So if you're decided J-Team, you'll happily accept donations. And when you are, of course, a scaling team, it just feels even better when you do get those extra large sacks of gold.
Does look like Taco is going to be able to make it out of this one, but I do want to take this sort of lull in action. Never mind, no lull, as we do have 665 going in for Uniboy, going for the bounty. They have the ultimate pop bound, but Uniboy is completely fine, still has full HP. When going into the backline, dodges out on the shockwave, and they do find the kills. MFT making a comeback. Little V is down. Driver trying to come in, but he's going up against 1v3. Kongre will look for the kill, challenging Spike going down, and he does get Will on the back end. Still, a pretty impressive feat for MFT. Down 10,000 gold, they managed to get at least 2 back.
Finding 2 kills there, especially onto Lil V, is going to feel nice, of course. However, as it stands, Uniboy's bounty has not yet been claimed, so the big threat still remains, and even more importantly, if you look at his inventory, he still has that stopwatch available to him, so he didn't have to use that in the last fight. So it feels like while that they tried to make a play onto Uniboy, it doesn't pay off because of that Tahm Kench, beautiful Tahm Kench play to bail his mid laner out. And the big part here, when that Orianna is so far ahead, it makes things incredibly difficult to play out as the Tryndamere, because the moment you approach these fights, you have to preemptively use your ultimate because of how much damage is coming in from that shockwave combo.
True. We saw that double dive from the Tryndamere and Akali be able to basically blow up Lil V before even the blink of an eye, but the other target, Uniboy, was much more difficult to deal with there.
And Zanya's now completed.
Oh boy, that's just even worse. In that fight, I felt like MFT, if they were able to land that dredge line onto Enso before he made it over that cubby, it would have been so different. They most likely would have been able to find Uniboy there, but unfortunately, we have Epoch landing the hook onto a wall, and just that kind of mistake didn't really do them any favors. J-Team now setting up for a 2-prong attack here, taking the Drake while still having vision control over the Baron.
Yeah, they certainly know that MFT are kind of in a desperate time situation and might go ahead and try the Baron, but of course, if you look at their composition, they have a very, very slow Baron take. Yes, the Tryndamere does do damage, but of course he has to be around that objective to actually get onto it, since he doesn't have the teleport, so it's very difficult to sneak the Baron away. If you are the Tryndamere, it's very easy to deduce if he's trying to attempt that objective. And then you also have your AD carry, which is your main source of damage onto an objective like Baron. Well, it's a Jhin, so Jhin does not do a whole lot to these large objectives. Certainly can help execute and finish it off with his 4th shot, but doesn't help you to get to that point.
Kongre is trying to find a kill onto Wen. The Q does miss just a little bit. They will start clearing out for this Baron. No teleport on Tryndamere. Taco still decides to show in the bottom lane. Let's see if we have some response here from J-Team. J-Team just very happily going to take over the top red side jungle, the top blue side jungle, excuse me, as they know that they do have the numbers advantage. Finally, MFT will funnel themselves back onto the top side, closing in on this Baron pit. The Scryer goes down, but J-Team just don't care. They're going to start it regardless. And now MFT have to make their approach. Everything comes down to this one. They're very far behind. Let's see if the Dragon Steal is possible. 665 not even in range to make it happen. J-Team on the turnaround. Driver going to start. 665 goes in, but almost instantly gets blown up. Uniboy has to pop the Zonias. Hopefully they can find a kill here, but no, he comes right out and simply kills Taco before the Undying Rage is even used. 665 to follow. Wen calls it full retreat. Will just left for dead, and now Wen has no backup. Only the support alive, and Epoch is going back to the base. J-Team do not lose a single member to the dive, and they're going to clean up this game.
You know, not really surprised about this outcome, Clement, because
Definitely
of
not.
just how that early game went. Again, like when you snowball this, you typically slower carry in the Oriana, you're going to run into a lot of issues. Like Taco, the burst damage coming out from the mage right now is just too much for him to expect that he can't even use the Undying range in a timely fashion.
He's gonna go down.
And the
Courier
game's just
comes
done.
in. Yeah, it doesn't look like there's anything to do. Whale tries to get a couple pot shots off, but Lil V is taking none of that, standing right in the front line. That's not what you want to see if you're trying to run Akali and Tryndamere, and their AD carry is leading the charge here. One gets attacked again by a Sonic Wave, and has to be very impressed by the accuracy that has been displayed. 665 trying to get something done on the back end. Uniboy hasn't even lost an HP to that. Uniboy is just, he's completely fine taking a solo duel against 665. Another insect. Whale goes down, and that should be the finishing touches. Taco gets his Undying Rage this time, at least, but has to flash out. Needlework finds one charge, and Enzo, the support, the top Kench, flashes forward to pick up the kill. They do lose Kongria in that, and Wen might be able to save this one. Lil V only on one more tick of damage, can't get it through. Epoch chooses to dive in. Last hurrah, the mad insignia comes out, and J-Team will polish this game up by 18,000 gold. A cruising and crushing victory from the original J-Team.
Now, J-Team, this game was never in question, and they really executed all they really needed to. You can kind of see when he's not too worried about this game because, well, it wasn't his fault.
Yeah, I really don't think MFT got much of a chance to showcase what their comp was supposed to do, but, you know, let's just kind of disregard all of the mistakes, all of the mishaps that happened. Certainly just throw away the 665. I would say those were like kind of Uber deliveries. What should have MFT's game plan actually look like?
If they were able to sort of get through without, of course, the 2 deaths, the fights would have looked a lot differently, right? Because then you don't hit those early power spikes on the Oriana, then your dive would have a lot more value to it. Your Hecarim would have been able to clear a couple more camps. He'd be on pace to actually enforce the dive, and really the whole point of the Hecarim is that he can gank early on, similar to a Lee Sin. His gank timings are a lot better because he has Ghost, and you also clear camps a lot faster. So you really just outpace the Lee Sin while being able to do a lot of the same things Lee Sin can do. And then when it comes to those mid-game team fights, you're just a better jungler at that point because of how much faster you are over the Lee Sin. And so that's really the crux of the dive power coming in. But unfortunately, giving away a little bit too much through the early phases means that he himself doesn't have the power to dive the backline, and the backline just one-shots him as well.
Yeah, we saw that multiple times coming in from Uniboy, even through Zanya's, shocking Taco. He didn't even get his Undying Rage off before just getting blown up. I want to turn to an interesting question because we have seen a lot of Hecarims actually be first picked when Lee Sin has been banned out. But I have to say, I don't think it's really shown its worth, especially when power picks like Jinx and Gwen are up. Do you agree with that? Do you think it's like maybe just kind of drop the Hecarim first picks?
Absolutely. I think first pick Hecarim is just way too much here, especially when you do leave up a pick like the Jinx. Whale has also shown himself to be able to succeed on this pick, so it does really baffle me that they choose to let that through. They don't even go to something like an Aphelios that has carry potential and really just all in on something that has to succeed at 14 minutes or just naturally loses out. And like at 14 minutes, they weren't able to get tower plates. They weren't able to get any value out of that first Rift Herald as well, most importantly, and they weren't able to contest those early dragons. So the MFT plan, while it looked good perhaps in draft, the play in game was just disastrous.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. Our closing statements from week 1 were that MFT seems like they still have champion issues coming in from their bot lane and mid lane. It's week 3, and that still seems like the case. The banning Zeri on blue side, putting their mid lane priority much later, and then first picking Hecarim for 665. A lot of things don't seem to be jiving here. And, I just feel like Hecarim is one of those picks that sends too strong of a signal early on. It's like, we're going dive comp. Boys, we're going dive pump. So pick up your Orianas and pick up your Tom Catch, because we're diving.
Yeah, and I think that was where you can give credit to J-Team as well in the fact that they identified, hey, they're going to be diving. Let's get this Tom Kench to keep our backline safe. You can say that Oriana was also played to that same theme, but at the same time, like, Uniboy was probably going to pick Oriana regardless. So MVP does go over to Kongya. He had a lot of agency early on. He made some plays. I would have given it to Uniboy, given how well he played with those resources given to him, courtesy of 665. But at the same time, Kongya had a very good performance and also had the flashy highlight plays on top of it.
So many successful insects this game. He basically gave Whale no chance to deal damage, won the duels against his opposing jungler. Very deserved MVP for Kongya for sure here. And J-Team looks like they're continuing to roll on. When we come back to the next game, I'm going to give you the stats of what the win rate is for teams when they get to pick Gwen and Jinx together on the red side. I'll definitely have that in my pocket when we come back.
Yeah, there's just way too much scaling coming in for the side of J-Team as well, right? You get Gwen Jinx, like that's any team on red side, if they lock those two champions in, they just feel so comfortable moving into the game because it gives you so much late game power. And it's not like they're slouches in the early lane phase too, right? You're going to hit level 2 very easily on the Jinx because you just rocket the backline, and Gwen not too shabby in a couple of these early duels.
Congratulations for J-Team picking up their first red side win. Don't go anywhere as we come back with a battle between CTBC Flying Oyster and Beyond Gaming.